I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Police have been responding to an alarming number of fentanyl overdoses in one section of downtown Portland. It's near a vacant building on Southwest 4th in Washington. A week ago, our Blair Best was on that corner and met a 22-year-old man who had overdosed on the same weekend as 10 other people. 3 of those 10 died, but he survived. He was revived after he was given Narcan 3 times, and then he asked Blair for help. Here's part of their conversation.
I want to detox really bad. I want to get off fentanyl.
What's getting in your way of seeking that help? Is it a lack of services in the city, or is it something within you?
I believe it's a little bit of both. I would say there's not very many resources in the city.
Hey, so I've got him here with me. You're on speaker. He's willing to go into detox and get help. Do you want to talk to him really quick?
That'd be amazing.
Okay, here, I'm gonna keep you on speaker, okay?
Hello.
Here he is.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, bro. How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right, man. I just really need to get help.
Have you been to Hooper before yet?
Yeah, I was at Hooper for a day, and then I left.
Why'd you leave? Did you get kicked out? You man?
I just couldn't do it. It was difficult.
Okay.
But like I would gladly go back.
That was an outreach worker on the phone he was talking to. The plan was to try to get him into a detox facility as soon as possible. But in order to get him into one of the incredibly limited beds in the following days, the outreach teams had to find him along with his family on Portland streets. Well, Blair joined their search at 6 a.m. and learned it's often a race against the clock, raising the stakes on a situation that really could be the difference between life and death.
So we're going to go ahead and go down, search for him.
Outreach worker Isaac Salazar is in the field of taking chances.
One of the things is planting seeds. And so, talking to people about it, letting them know there's a way out, and just planting them. We have an appointment at 7:30 a.m. at 4 Health.
That appointment is in just over an hour for a detox bed for Nate, a young homeless man we met after he overdosed on fentanyl and asked us for help. We called the team at Cielo Treatment Center. They located a bed, but had yet to find him.
Pretty much right now, it's going to be pretty difficult to find somebody this early in the morning.
The time frame is dictated by the detox centers.
They admit everybody in the morning. It's a process to run their insurance, UA them.
Isaac isn't traveling alone. In the back seat is his friend David, who came to look for his son Ryan, who we also met last week.
Because I don't believe I need to go to treatment. I'm happy being a drug addict.
Ryan's dad is determined to save him.
I'm a little anxious. Hopeful we see Ryan this morning. Yeah, but when the payoff comes, man, it's good, when that person finally latches on and says, I need help. So
it's something both he and Isaac know from experience.
Yeah, I'm a recovering addict. Been, I think now working on my 5th year. Had a lot of relapse,
When we get downtown, Isaac calls Nate's family, who's already out searching.
We're on 4th and Washington right now, over by the store.
Wow, okay. So we're doing a big swoop.
They decide to split up into 2 teams.
All right, thanks, Ben. You're welcome.
There's a guy with a gray sweatshirt right there. I don't know if maybe that might be.
It's now 6:30. They have exactly 1 hour to find him.
Good morning, how you guys doing? Hey, I'm looking for my son Ryan and for Nate, my buddy Nate. This is my son Ryan, and I'm looking for Nate. We have treatment set up for him.
Oh, that's my bro.
We're just trying to get him help right now. They asked for some help, my friend. So if you see Nate, will you let him know that get a hold of us? He knows how. Okay? All right, thank you.
Just trying to get a good picture of Nate here right now. I'm gonna go hit these guys up now.
I know. I talked to him not
To
that
Nate?
long ago. Yeah.
Today?
No. Yesterday.
You just don't know where they're going to be at, what tent, what area. It's a big city.
The one in the blue shirt, I haven't seen that all down here at all.
Okay. You guys keep your eye open.
But the other guy,
the other guy, Nate?
I would say you'd be able to find him like in this block, or the next block.
I mean, we could kind of shoot up because they were saying a couple blocks up and think that spreading out at this point.
Good morning. We've made some good headway, I feel, but you know, lots of people seen them. They know who they are, but they're not here right now. So
That is my best friend right there.
Nate is well known in this part of town.
If you guys get him into treatment, it would mean the world to me.
Really? Okay.
Thank you guys so much.
After circling the block, we run into his family.
It tears my heart. It's like I can't help but like not stop. Like, you know what I mean?
They fear time is running out.
Like, I don't want my brother to die. And that's what I feel like exactly where it's at. Looking the other way and just saying, oh, my brother will figure it out, that's just saying, that's giving up.
That's giving up. That's giving up.
A crew from downtown Portland Clean and Safe says they even know Nate and will keep an eye out.
Numerous times to talk to him. Usually he's right around this area.
I just saw him yesterday.
Yeah, we're trying to give him treatment.
There's 15 minutes left before Nate's bed at Fora Health, one of the 2 large-scale detox centers in the city, is given to the next person in line.
I know we're getting closing in on that time. I know.
The window's closing.
I know.
After searching a nearby parking garage, time runs out.
Yeah, we lost the window of opportunity, right? And right now, too, there's probably a group of people over there that are trying to get in, right? Where he had a referral, so he would have got in. He had a bed saved for him.
Definitely tried. Plant seeds.
Yeah.
Plant seeds.
Planting seeds in a field of pain, felt not only from those on the streets, but from the families trying to find them.
Looking for my son and for a buddy of mine.
Turns out, later that morning, Nate texted his brother that he was several blocks away. It wasn't until the next morning when they finally got him into detox, when another bed opened up at Fora Health. At last check, he's still there. As for David,
and this is my son Ryan, right there.
the search for his son lingers on.
I think a lot has to do with the commitment. I mean, if you want to get clean, it's a matter of getting up and getting in it, so they can get you processed, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice that if we had like a 24-hour.
Yeah.
Blair's with me now. Holy cow, powerful story. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so Pat, I'm a pretty emotional person, to be honest, and after we shot that story that day, I definitely got a little emotional. I mean, watching that dad and the drive that he has to help his son, it was inspiring, but at times heartbreaking to witness.
And knowing that the clock is ticking the whole time.
Yeah.
And also he's so motivated, but he's pretty realistic about what it takes to get into recovery.
Right, because as you saw and you heard, he's a recovering addict himself. And this also isn't the first time that he's gone out and tried to find his son. So that just added another layer of sort of desperation. He was like, I want to find him today. So many people knew who he was. They were familiar with him in that area. We just couldn't find him by the deadline.
But then they did find him a couple hours later, right?
Well, they found Nate, the other boy, a couple hours later. Nate actually texted his brother. They were several blocks away, and his brother stayed with him that night in a hotel room. Watched after him until a bed opened up the next morning at Fora Health.
Okay, but Ryan, the one the dad was looking for, he's still out in the wind?
He's still out there, and actually I was down on the corner of Southwest 4th in Washington today, and I didn't see him. The dad has been texting me since we shot this story, and he continues to go out day after day and try to find him, and he can't find him.
That's heartbreaking.
It really is.
And what do the advocates say needs to be done?
So they think there needs to be something like a sobering center, just a place downtown where people wanting to go into detox can go check themselves into, a place where they could, say, continue using their drugs until a bed opens up in a detox facility where they can, get the treatment that they need. Because right now, as you saw, someone wants a bed, there's no beds available until 2 or 3 days later, and then we're out searching the streets to try and find them. It's just not, it's not a process that's working.
Wow, it's gritty to see it on the front lines like that. Thanks so much for bringing us that story. Up next on the story, Oregon's kicker is estimated to be historic, nearly $4 billion. But should taxpayers expect to get that money back, or could lawmakers put it towards other projects like the I-5 bridge? Plus, we're headed up to Olympia, where Washington lawmakers are as close as they've ever been to banning the sale and manufacture of assault weapons. What still needs to be done before it heads to the governor's desk, and the guarantee from gun advocates on what's still to come. Those stories are next when the story returns. On Friday's show, we took an in-depth look at Oregon's kicker law, which is basically a refund for taxpayers if the state collects more tax money than they expected to in Oregon. Well, we had one of our talented editors help make a short video to help us all understand.
Back in 1979, the Oregon legislature passed the 2% kicker law. Here's how it works. Before the state's 2-year budget starts, super smart folks in the government's numbers office get out their crystal ball and take a highly educated guess on how much tax money will come into the state during those 2 years. It's sort of like a game show. If the actual tax amount is less, well, everyone loses. Lawmakers have to cut budgets and everyone frowns. If they are pretty close to their guess, then lawmakers have the amount of money they expect and everything is fine. But if the actual tax revenue amount is more, 2% more or above, then taxpayers have hit the jackpot and everyone gets some of their tax money sent back.
Hope that made it easy. In simpler terms, if the state thought it was going to get $100 in tax revenue, but it actually collects $105, well, that would mean that revenues are 5% more than initially thought, and that means the kicker would kick in and taxpayers would get some of their money back. Now, how much you get back is based on how much you paid in. So it usually works out that people with big incomes get more back from the government and lower income people get less. That's because those who made less paid less in taxes. By the way, the kicker is not going to show up as a check in the mail. It would come in the form of a tax credit when you fill out your taxes next year. This time around, that surplus is expected to be nearly $4 billion, meaning that kicker could be enormous, by far the largest ever. On average, it could be a couple of $1,000s back for each taxpayer. But, and I say but, lawmakers in Salem could raid the kicker fund to use it for priorities instead of sending it back to you. However, that would require a 2/3 majority vote in both the House and the Senate. And with the current makeup of the legislature, not very likely. In fact, my sources in the Capitol tell me it's simply not going to happen. The kicker will go back to taxpayers. It's a touchy subject. You sent us your thoughts last week with a good number of you saying, I do want my money back. But quite a few of you also said the money should instead be used for state projects like the new I-5 bridge or to address homelessness and addiction. And when we featured some of those comments on Friday, well, that got even more of you calling and demanding and emailing us with how you think the money should be used.
In regard to the kicker, to the state, I say, it's my money. Send it back. That's all. Just send my money back.
Concerning the kicker, you know, I've been a long-time taxpayer in Oregon, lifetime taxpayer in Oregon, and I want my money back. I want my money back so I can pay next year's taxes.
Well, there is that. Shane says, I absolutely want my kicker tax. I feel the government has proven themselves inept at doing anything correctly. Give me my kicker. I'll decide how to productively spend my money. Debbie says, times are hard right now and most of us can use the kicker. Even the wealthy deserve to get their kicker. They paid taxes too. Oregon taxes are outrageously high. We look forward to the kicker. Please do not use our kicker money to fund projects. But not all the comments went that way. Several of you do think that the surplus should be used for state projects like the new I-5 bridge.
I think the state should reserve the kicker fund and use them to help build the bridges and help out the homelessness, all that kind of special project, instead of giving it back to everybody. Including especially the super rich people.
I think that the $3.5 billion or $4 billion ought to be used for the bridge and to help the homeless, to build places for the homeless. That'd make more sense to me.
All right, thanks, Jenny. And then there is the urban-rural divide. We heard from a few of you who make a very good point when it comes to people from the western half of the state who say the kicker should be used to help build the new I-5 bridge. A viewer named Steve says, do you find it ironic that all that 1 week you reported on Greater Idaho and Eastern Oregon not being heard, and then tonight callers want the kicker spent on a bridge the Eastern folks may never use?
The kicker money should not go back to people as cash or even a tax credit. It should be spent on the infrastructure. But recalling your story on Greater Idaho, it should be statewide. infrastructure, not just the interstate bridge between Vancouver and Portland, but statewide. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of bridges and roads and other issues around this state that need to be repaired, replaced, or fixed. That's where the money needs to go.
Interesting points there, thank you. And finally, several of you think the kicker law should just be repealed. One viewer named David calls it insane. And Paul explains, I look at this from the perspective of anyone's personal finances. You have good years and bad. Some years you make good money and save. Other years you get hit with expenses and come up short. Then you have those savings to get you through. He goes on, giving away our surplus in the good years is not how we manage our personal finances. Government should not either. Oregon should eliminate the kicker. All right, thanks everybody for your input. And what about the rest of you? What do you think about the kicker? We know it's very popular for a lot of people across the state, and it seems most likely that we will be seeing quite a bit of a tax refund during next year's tax season. But send us your thoughts. Email thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090. To the state of Washington now, where the legislature in Olympia is on the cusp of banning the sale, transfer, and manufacture of assault weapons. The state Senate passed a bill to do that on Saturday. All that stands in the way now is the House approving an amendment and a signature from Governor Jay Inslee. And by the way, the governor's already said he will sign it. Here's Evan Watson with more.
Washington state lawmakers are set to ban the sale, transfer, and manufacture of assault weapons in the state. The Senate passed House Bill 1240 on Saturday with a 27-21 vote. Notably, this bill doesn't affect people who already own guns, like AR-15s, AK-47s, and M16s.
So I think this took that out, and it opened up the conversation so that we could focus on what we really wanted to do, which is to stop the flow of these types of weapons into the state of Washington.
State Senator Yasmin Trudeau, a Democrat who supported the bill, says this is just one step.
And no single bill is going to address gun violence at large, but we know that there is a direct correlation between mass shootings and the types of weapons that are being banned under this bill.
Bills to ban automatic or semi-automatic guns have failed to pass in Washington for years. Republicans have blamed mental health for mass shootings and said the ban would restrict gun access for legal and responsible gun owners.
The legislators that I work with do exemplify responsible gun ownership. I think that there are a lot of people that do. But again, we don't legislate for those with the best behavior. We legislate for the worst behavior. So that is because we want to protect our community at large.
Trudeau says this bill is moving forward because it's not focused on current gun possession, but future sales and transfers. She also says Democrats have stronger majorities in both chambers, and the support for an assault weapons ban is mounting with the frequency of mass shootings.
It's the urgency, and it's the fact that we've got the political support and political will.
The bill has exemptions for law enforcement agencies and military members. If passed, it's expected to be challenged in court.
We make determinations all the time on balance with public safety. So it's not just about, well, I want this, so I should get it. It's like, what are we allowing people to do that also impact their neighbor? Because we don't live in the wild, wild west. We don't live independent from our community. We live in communities with everybody else. My neighbor is just as important as I am.
Evan Watson, KGW News.
The amendment to the bill that the House still has to pass would allow gun manufacturers to sell assault weapon inventory that they already have on hand. But they could only sell it to people out of state and would have to do it within 90 days after the bill takes effect. If the House agrees with that, Governor Inslee has said he'll sign the bill if it arrives on his desk. And as Evan mentioned, it is sure to be challenged in court by Second Amendment advocates who have basically promised it already.
The notion that you can solve all of these problems or prevent all of these crimes by infringing or impairing the rights of law-abiding citizens is nonsense. I can absolutely guarantee that this is going to be challenged by one or more federal lawsuits because it violates the Second Amendment.
So what's the future for this potential law? Will it just get bogged down like Oregon's Measure 114? Well, time will tell, but gun advocates believe if this case ends up in the U.S. Supreme Court, the conservative majority will rule in their favor, considering the nation's highest court seems willing to expand gun rights. That's because last year they ruled that Americans have a right to carry a handgun in public for self-defense. Coming up next on The Story, we'll take you to Vancouver, where there's quite a secret hiding inside a food truck, of all things.
And I looked at him and thought, food trucks. I've cooked in palaces and castles around the world, and do I really want to be doing food trucks now?
Well, fortunately for us, the answer is yes. And it's not just any castle or palace. How about Buckingham Palace? Why the former head chef for the late Queen of England is frying up authentic British fish and chips in the state of Washington. That's when The Story returns.
Next on KGW News at 6:30, new details on the response to the fentanyl epidemic you just heard about at the top of the story. The new order from Portland's mayor aimed at targeting a downtown block that's become known as an open-air drug market. Plus, a lawsuit over algae, why an environmental group is blaming the state of Oregon for bright green blooms flaring up in the Willamette. That's just ahead at 6:30. Hope to see you then.
If you like authentic British fish and chips, you're going to want to check out Winston's in Vancouver. It just opened up last month, and it has customers lining up to get food fit for, well, a king or a queen. And we mean that literally. The head chef and co-founder of the food truck was once the head chef for the late Queen Elizabeth II. So you could say he knows a thing or two about British cuisine. Devin Haskins has the story.
There is real jubilation for these fish and chips.
I saw it on TikTok and I just about lost my mind that it was here. I'm so excited.
And they'll wait, even if it's cold and windy out.
We went to London a few years ago, and so we've been looking for a place that had authentic British fish and chips.
Winston's British Fish and Chips was the idea of battleground businessman Timothy Johnson.
I want to create authentic British fish and chips for Americans to enjoy like I did when I was a child.
Except Johnson is not a chef. So he went online and researched the food and found chef Darren McGrady.
And I said, I've got to talk to this guy.
I looked at him and thought, food trucks.
The food truck is a much smaller footprint than what he's used to.
They just make me look good. I just splash some batter on me, go outside.
For 11 years, McGrady worked inside Buckingham Palace, cooking for the Queen of England. It's a job he sought after waiting outside the palace when Prince Charles and Diana were getting married.
So when I got home, I wrote a letter to the Queen and said, I want to be your chef.
That dream came true within a few months, but Of course, he started at the bottom.
But I always remembered my first cooking for the royals. And we'd gone to Balmoral Castle and they said, you're going to be dog chef. And I said, what does that mean? And they said, the Queen's got 12 corgis and you need to cook for the corgis. When it came to favourites, the dogs came first, and then the horses, and then her family, and the chefs were number 100 at the bottom.
He eventually worked his way to the top, becoming the head chef at Buckingham Palace.
If the Queen came into the kitchen, you stood to attention, you moved pans off the stove, and then you spoke to her if you needed to.
When Prince Charles and Diana split up, he became Diana's personal chef until her death in 1997. He then moved to the United States and started his own business ventures. Which brings us back to Winston's British Fish and Chips.
This is so tiny. This is like a walk-in refrigerator at Buckingham Palace.
The menu offers 5 choices. The favorite being 2 pieces of Alaskan cod dredged in flour, then dipped in the batter and dropped in the fryer to order. The chips are added with either a side of curry sauce or mushy peas. And it's all served in a box that looks more royal than your typical to-go container.
Thank you.
Devin Haskins, KGW News.
Oh, I think the lines are going to get a little longer at that food truck. You may have guessed it already, but Winston's, the food truck, is named after none other than Winston Churchill. You can find the food truck along Northeast Andreessen. Now, that's not Anderson, it's Northeast Andreessen. That's Andreessen Road in Vancouver. It's in the parking lot of the Living Hope Church. And it sure looks tasty. All right, keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com. We're going to wrap things up right after this. Hey, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.
This is KGW